Hey out there, all you contractors. It's Jim Johnson, the head coach here at Contractor Coach Pro with this week's episode of Contractor Radio. And we have a superstar of marketing. I'm super excited. We have been friends for a little while on Facebook, but we really connected over this whole situation that we're dealing with, this coronavirus thing. And she was watching a panel that I was on with Company Cam. And she reached out and she said, hey, if any of your contractors need some help with this new program you're putting out, I'd be willing to do that. And me being me is like, okay, what does she want? Like, that's the deal. Like, nobody says I help for free anymore, right? And I reached out to her and I said, that's really nice. You know, what do you want to get out of it? How do I help you with your business? And she's like, no, I don't want anything. I just want to help people. And so I was immediately like, okay, let's tap her for everything she's got. And I got an opportunity to talk with her a little bit more. She's a fountain of knowledge, and she's got some knowledge in an area that most contractors don't focus in. And so we're going to talk about that today. But I would like to welcome to the show Jessica Reyna with Kill Your Competition.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're super pumped about it. So Jessica, just to kind of get things started off, we kind of do this as we get, I like to get to know people, and I think our audience likes to get to know people. You'd be surprised how many people like download this podcast. It's been pretty humbling, and it's been encouraging, like, to keep doing it. And so just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe some background and history, how you got to where you are, and dig into some of that stuff we were talking about.
Well, my name is Jessica, and I've been in marketing since 2006. My background is actually primarily digital and audio, and that includes video, not just audio. But I've been doing this for a long time, and the reason I switched and now I own my own company is while I was working, my husband, who's a Marine, had to get out of the Marines and trying to make a transition to civilian life, and just had a baby and it wasn't working. So we started our own business and went from there, and it's been just real great. We've worked with contractors for the last 15 years. And prior to that, I worked with contractors in banking, and it's probably my favorite category despite any economic circumstance.
So you say you work with contractors. What kind of contractors do you work with? Is it like all roofing contractors, or is it a niche thing, or is it a broad base? What does that look like?
The contractors we have range. We have ones that are small, that are AC, plumbing, siding, solar, and landscaping, and even sprinkler repair, all the way up to very large roofing contractors, some in the top 20 in the country.
Well, one of the things that kind of caught me off guard was I didn't know who you were. Like, this was weird. Like, when you reached out to me, I'm like, I don't know this Jessica person. And then when I asked if, what you wanted out of you, said, well, I don't really need any business. I just want to help. I went, okay, who is this person that says they don't want business? And I know you do. Like, I know we will always take on a great client, but what do you think's been the recipe to kind of get to there where you have all these clients and you can be a little bit picky and choosy?
I think the most important thing is just establishing fit. Just like in any market, you have tons of homes, tons of homeowners, and you have to say to yourself, who is my customer? And the most important thing is understanding who you can have a good relationship with. For me, I really like the mutual engagement, but I also like the ability to create and do what I do best. So a lot of my clients will allow me that freedom. They'll give me as much education about what they do in detail so I can speak intelligently to homeowners and do it in a way where I can reach them in as many ways possible and understand how they're going to reach back to the contractor to become a customer.
So that brings me to one of my things I struggle with marketing companies. It's interesting. Like, as a contractor, we kind of handled it all in-house. We knew what we were doing. I know how to speak to a homeowner and that type of thing. But here as a coach, digital, this new weird digital world, I've struggled mightily, and I've tried, several different companies. And the thing that really gets me is we're super busy. That's been a really good thing. Our results have been pretty good. We get really good word of mouth. I get to speak at a lot of events that bring people to us. But every time I try to engage a marketing company, it's like this giant thing to try and get them to understand what it is that I do. And we sit down and we go through, the persona of your client and all these different things, right? And your editorial calendar and how the post needs to look, and you need to take these pictures and that. I'm like, that's what I hired you for. Like, that's the part I don't want to do. That's the part that so what does that look like for you guys? Because I'm sure you got to get to know your people, but how do you handle that part?
Well, the most important thing for us is early on, we take the time before we reach out to someone to understand your business. And there's going to be times too where we're not going to know a lot of information. I remember when I first started working very closely with roofers in a much more, I would say, one-to-one sense. I remember I heard him say something about a dry-in, and I had never heard that term before. And I looked at him and I said, "What's a dry-in?" And this is a large commercial roofing contractor. And he's like, "You don't know what a dry-in is?" And I said, "No." And I gave him a very specific marketing term that I knew he wouldn't know. And I said, "You don't know what this is?" And he laughed, and we're still very good friends. But that was really important. Is I'm not going to know all of your technical terms right off, but it's very important that you allow me to have the opportunity to do it. And you don't have to do it by us sitting in a meeting. Every marketer can go on, they can Google you, they can read all about your business. They don't need to know how long your business. If you're spending time that you don't have explaining things that someone can already look at, in my opinion, that's not the right person for me. I wouldn't want them asking me the same questions. I want my time to be treated as valuable as their time is. And again, those are things we can look at. There's going to be times where something new is going to come up and I'm not going to understand. But if I can have the opportunity or a resource within your company where I can ask, again, not what a dry-in, obviously that's a very basic term and I know that now. But if I have something where I really want to understand the difference, allow me a resource within the company to ask those questions. And that will allow me to create content constantly for you through a variety of formats that communicates to people in a way that they can understand what your workmanship is, your technicality within it, and your expertise in a way that someone can understand and act upon the information they're receiving.
Awesome. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Sorry, that was long.
We all say thank you. Like, it is such a frustration. I'm like, all that stuff's on my website. Here, I'll let you log into all my learning stuff. You can go watch all that and get up to speed on it. When you get done with that, then come back to me, because now you'll know. And it's frustrating to have to go fill out a bunch of forms and write a bunch. Like, I don't want to write a bunch of content. That's the reason I'm getting you.
They have a website. People can look that information up. One of the things I always respond back to salespeople when they reach out to me for my contractors, they always say, "Can you handle 15 more leads a month? Or are you still working right now and taking on business?" And I would just always respond with, "No, we just flip the lights on and sit around and plan on what we're going to do next month." And, when you talk to people, treat them the way that you want to be treated.
I could not agree more. We were actually talking about that before we hopped on, of putting ourselves in the other person's shoes, right? And, we don't know what route they've gone and how they've gotten to where they are. So we have this practice after getting to know you a little bit. We always ask this question. And so I'm interested to find out from you, what's your greatest achievement to date? And that doesn't include getting married or having kids or any of that family stuff. Like, those are always easy wins for our greatest achievement. Other than that, what's it been?
I think this is not necessarily one of my greatest achievements because it does involve other people. And I'm a believer in Jesus, and I cannot credit anything I've done without him. But he continues to provide me with opportunities to help people in ways that I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined. And he's done so much in my life. And again, just giving me opportunities. And one of them, I had a client who actually got a lot of TV stations used to give out gifts where they would send you on a trip if you spent a certain amount of dollars. And one of the owners couldn't go. And none of the other managers in the office could go. And I said, "Well, can I have your trip? Because I'm managing his marketing." And he said, "Sure." And so I got the privilege of going to Africa for about 2 weeks. And it was amazing. But while we were there and you're experiencing all these 5-star and beautiful things, my best friend came with me and I said, "Hey, can we see real Africa?" And they said yes. So they got us a taxi. We drove 20 minutes away from town into this little tiny village called Mukuni Village. You can look it up. It's Mukuni. And they're right outside Victoria Falls, which is one of the 7 wonders of the world. So huge area, but no one even knew this place existed. And This is a village that is 100% dependent on tourism to survive. They're a traditional village. They have, I think maybe half a dozen homes in a village of maybe 7,000 have electricity. None of them have running water. And I got to find out who these people are and had a great day with them. I said, I would love to help you still. Can I give someone my card? Can I connect with someone? And I gave this guy, his name's Clifton, I gave him my card. And about a couple months later, he reached out to me and I was working and he goes, hey, my name is Clifton. I met you in the village. Can you help us? How can you help us? And my husband does web design. And so he built them a website and I built them a social media presence and I created the content on there. And it's really cool because now we constantly see people that are, even despite the circumstances and travel issues, and even when they went through this really crazy drought, we constantly would see people coming in saying, I went to the village, I experienced the village, I found out about the village, I bought crafts from the village, and that's how they make their money, is people come and do tours. This is one of the most historical villages in the whole country of Zambia. This is the place where David Livingstone went. They took care of him and his men, and they're the ones who brought him to Victoria Falls. Wow. And it's so cool that people now are available and they see this and that we can support them. And even in, there's a lot I could go on about them, and just they're amazing people. And it would never have happened if God did not allow those opportunities to happen. And I still check on it. I still have access to their social media, and I love it. And, we all have different things we can offer. And if we're just open to the opportunities that God puts before us, the opportunities are endless.
Wow. That was, I don't get shivers down my spine very often when I'm listening to a story, but I'm sitting here going, wow, she marketed a whole village. That's super cool. How do you do that? How does that even come across to your mind to go, hey, I want to market this village and help these folks out? Man, that is awesome. I love the faith-based side of it. Times are a little bit sketchy right now with this whole coronavirus thing that we're dealing with. And I think a lot of people are finding their faith again and reconnecting with God. And I'm looking at that as a blessing of some of this stuff. And so it's always nice to have an interview with somebody else of faith and seeing that it isn't about them or anything like that. Anything we do, it's God working through us. And that's been our attitude from the beginning here at Contractor Coach Pro. Like our core values are love, serve, and care. That's what we do every single day. And we figure if we do that well, everything else will be okay. And so far, absolutely. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what you do, right? You do some unique things, I think, for our particular industry. Most people in our industry, and when I talk about our industry, I'm talking the home services contractor world. They probably tend to send some direct mail. They might do some telemarketing. They maybe even incorporate some door-to-door. Extreme cases, they might have some radio and TV, but it's just spots, they buy them and that's kind of all there is to it. Some of them are a little bit hinky and goofy, which sometimes plays quite well. And then they dabble in social media and they dabble in Google and the results are kind of iffy and that type of thing. And so what I find intriguing about you is you kind of wrap all those things together. Do I understand that thing correctly?
Yes, 100%. So what we do and what we specialize in is called omni-channel marketing. And what it means is that we are understanding how people are interacting with you, how they're seeing you, where they're seeing you, whether it's trucks going through the neighborhood, whether it's online, if they're hearing about you on the radio, and then making sure that they're not working independently, because people don't respond to your company and call you and do business with you based on one independent interaction. So what we want to do is make sure every interaction that you have, every opportunity for you to be in front of people is the most effective as possible to eventually drive them to the final point of calling and saying yes. And they're so pre-qualified at that point that it's a done deal. It's a 100% done deal. So by the time your estimator gets to the door, they know all about your estimator, they know all about your company, and they know why they chose to call you in the first place, and they're confident in that.
So first off, that's super cool. That doesn't sound like a salesperson. That sounds like an order taker. Just show up and come on. I don't have to go sell a whole lot because you've done a lot of the dirty work for us. I was, if you might have seen me, I was distracted. Those of you that are seeing this on video, I actually pulled my phone up And I wanted to look up the meaning of omni. And so omni means of all things, which I thought, oh, that definitely describes exactly what you do. It's all of it, right? How do you manage all that? Like, there's so many different channels. We talk about these different marketing channels, and there's so many different channels: social media, Google Ads, Google My Business, TV, radio, direct mail, and the list is a mile long that goes down my arm. Talking about those things. How do you manage all that stuff? How do you bring it together into one cool place?
The most important thing is that you understand the top message and understanding that you have to invest in the right resources to be able to track all that information. Because if you sit there and you rely on basic things such as, how did I hear about your business? You're going to fail. It's not going to work. I always tell people, I'll write you $1,000 check today if you can find me a credible source that says that's a way to verify how your marketing is working. So what we do is we understand the top down, and then the people that work for us, they are specialized. So I have the top vision, I have the top planner, top researcher. And then once I say, okay, this is the messaging, this is what we're going to do. And I'll start with, for example, one of our clients, Collis Roofing, we talked about earlier. We'll start with, here's the top message. And then she'll spread that message throughout the employees' social medias as well. And so you have someone that specifically has to work on that, because if you try to be everything to everyone for all your clients and doing every single post, every single, Google ad, you're going to get burnt out. So it's really important that you start with someone at the top who really understands those things and is qualified to do it. A lot of people say, well, I have one certification, I have 15. So they need to have enough certifications, enough research, enough data, and enough support underneath that they can continue to focus everything down. Otherwise, what ends up happening is a lot of these larger companies, they'll have one person that does it. They'll manage 20 to 50 campaigns online, for example, on Facebook and Google Ads, and they will all have the same message. And so what happens is that you and your competitors, who are probably using these larger companies, all look the same. So it has no meaning to a potential customer.
We talk about that, this idea, if you look the same, and I'll put it into corn, all right? Corn. Every ear of corn looks like the next ear of corn, and that's why they call it a commodity, right? I can buy that one or that one. It doesn't make any difference, right?
Right.
As soon as you put the word organic on it, oh, wow, that's like good corn. That's different corn. I'll pay more for that corn, right? It's the same thing in the roofing world. If everybody else is doing it this way, I got to do this way over here that's completely different and unique, because I want to stick out. I don't want to be white noise with everybody else. I want to be that trumpet that everybody hears. They don't miss it. Is that kind of how your philosophy works?
That is very important, but it has to not be an obnoxious trumpet. It has to be the one where I like that sound. And you also, again, have to understand, especially as your budget is smaller. So the smaller your budget, the more finite you have to be. And you have to figure out, where can I reach the most people for the least amount of money with the best, as you say, trumpet blast that is going to succinct with them, where they say, yes, I like that sound. I want that sound. How do I get that sound in my house?
So you were talking about targeting earlier, and we have a concept. We talk with guys about that all the time. And we really get down to like the super detail of it. So we say, target, usually people picture either like an archery target, or they picture like the dartboard, right? And we were like, okay, so picture dartboard, but picture that little bullseye in the middle. That's who I want to know. That's the one I want to know. Tell me who that one is, because if I can get to that one, everybody they know is going to be very close to that type of person that you want to work with. And so I can work from there out instead of from out here in. Is that something that works in your marketing thing, or what are your opinions on that?
There's two ways you can go about it. Yes, 100% you should have precision targeting, and it's extremely important. And I like to use the word scope. You have a scope, especially if you're going to do 1,000 yards, you need to make sure it's going to go up, it's going to come down, and you want to make sure that your grouping is tight, because if it's all over the place, you've wasted a bunch of ammo.
You better check the wind too, right? Like, check the wind.
You got to make sure that you're precise. But on the other hand, you don't want to be so precise that once you finish, let's say you're working a neighborhood or you're working a zip code, but all of a sudden you have to go to this next zip code and you have to start from ground zero. So in that case, you need to have some mass reach as well that is still broad enough. Yes, they need to be homeowners. They need to be verified homeowners. Not, we took a survey, but an actual verified homeowner, and not a small sample size with these surveys, because you cannot take 1% of a population and say that it represents the rest of the market. You really need to have precise data. So when you look at it in a large sense, you can say, okay, I want people to know why they should do business with me, know all about me in a way. So when I go to the next neighborhood and I knock on that door, or I send them a flyer or whatever it is, or my truck comes in, they're already warmed up to who I am. I'm not a stranger at the door. And that's also even more so in the sales process. And I'm not trying to jump on your toes, but sales and marketing, they're like, you cannot have one without the other.
We're married, yeah?
Yes, we're married. So that way, one of the things that we do with a lot of our clients, actually, I should say now, is we use BombBomb. So before that estimator even arrives at that door, they have got an email with the estimator that says, hi, I'm Jessica. I've been with so-and-so company for so many years. During that time, I've helped this many people, and just give a little bit of information, just literally 15 to 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be a novel because you're going to bore them. But at least that way, when you knock on that door, they're like, oh, that's Jessica. They know the sound of my voice. They know what I look like. They know a little bit about me and why people choose to use specifically me. Because what you're doing with marketing is selling them on the reputation of your company. When you get to the door, it's about the reputation of your salesperson. And so marketing that whole way through the process is extremely important for your success.
I could not agree more. 100%. I talk to more marketers than I want to be honest with you.
I think that's every business.
I bet you I get 20 a month that want to be on our podcast or want to be a part of our thing, or they want to work with our contractors. They get all kinds of them. And I normally just blow them off. One of the things about you that as we've interacted and done more and more, and I hope I don't offend you here.
No, not at all.
You seem to be almost like marketing nerdy. You want to know it inside and out and backwards and forward and dig in. Am I off base there? I don't want to.
No, 100%. I am an extreme introvert. I don't go to parties. But man, I love marketing and I love data. And the time I'm most excited is when I get to go to my ComScore conference every year, and I'm surrounded by my other data nerds. But I remember I got invited by a client to go to a company Christmas party, and they said, listen, we've invited you every year and you haven't come. Like, please don't make me come. I'm really good in your meetings. I can talk about marketing. We can talk about dry-ins all day long now. But I went to the party and I called the owner's son, who I've worked with for 8 years now, by the wrong name in front of him and his whole family. So I just get really nervous, so I'm not good with that. I cannot buy a pair of heels. I don't know how to do my hair, but I love marketing and I love data, and it's my passion outside of my family and my faith.
What fascinates you about it? Why are you so like 15 certifications, all of that, like the data stuff? Like what fascinates you about that? What is the thing? Because anybody that's passionate about something gives them fulfillment and energy from it. What is it about marketing that does that for you?
I love the engineering aspect of it. I think is really, really important. And just seeing how everything works together, understanding how people work and how to create things. And I really like supporting businesses. I like learning about people's businesses, and I like supporting that, because marketing, that's my number one job, is to grow a business. And if I grow a business, I create more jobs. If I create more jobs, I create a happier economy. And that to me is fulfilling.
That's really cool. So we have two opposing things going on right here. We have engineer and nerd. You were in agreement with those two. You actually mentioned engineer mind, like you like the engineering of it. But then you have this creative side, right? You have this copy and content delivery and video script and all this other stuff that goes along with that. Is that you, or is that somebody else, or where does that fall?
I do those. I have a lot of time. Yeah, so I, one of the ones that you participated with me earlier this week, I actually came up with all of those within the space of an hour. And I really like, again, it comes back to once I understand the engineering of the human mind, now I want to understand the heart of the human and how to reach them there. Because again, it's another, in my opinion, it's still, even though it's creative, it's still engineering. How do I create the response at that point? And how do I make it unique to that business and to the customer? And I get really excited about that too. So I get really excited. I produce TV commercials. I produce radio spots. I produce a lot of things. And like you've seen, I've produced a lot of social media content. And one of the ones that I came up with recently, I was really excited was just, yes, we can. And I think that's really important in the industry, especially with roofing right now, and how people feel is that, yes, we can help you now. And it's not that we can and you should, it's we can, we should, because that storm is going to come. Nobody cares. No storm cares if COVID-19 is here in 3 months. And it's important that we say that and that we're positive about it, not just we can meet with you virtually. People know that. People are seeing virtual meetings every which way. Yes.
We're doing one right here.
We're doing one right now. But it's true. I mean, people have heard of virtual doctor visits for 2 years. So that's not a new concept. It's not a reason for them to do business with you. But if you're positive and say, yes, we can care for you, and here's why we're caring for you now during this time. Even if you're in an area that's not impacted by storms, letting that leak that they know that they have from last season that they put off, the rain is going to come, spring is coming, and that's putting their family at risk for mold. So yes, COVID-19 is a thing. Mold is a really serious thing, and it can affect anybody. And so again, it's showing that just the positivity. And I know this is going to sound even worse, but I am a marketing person. But one of the ads that I've been putting out with the Yes We Can, it is an old customer. He is at least 65. He's full on gray. He's holding the customer's sign or the client's sign, and right above us, yes, we can. And he's got a beautiful roof behind him. Yes, we can help you. Even if you're old, we will safely protect your home. And it's not because we have to meet with you virtually. It's because we care about you and we're taking the precautions and we're positive about the future.
So I'm gonna end up having to give a plug here, which we started this new program, right? This Contractor Evolve thing. I was very grateful that you sat in with us, and you're starting to dig in kind of to why we did it, because we see on the surface that we can do this thing, from a no touch and virtual way. I don't have to be, within 10 feet of you. I don't even have to meet you at your house. I can come to your house, do your inspection without you being involved. I can go back to my office. I can set up a virtual call with you. And if you want to go with us, I can sign an e-doc. Like, we can all do those things. We know that this isn't anything new. We just haven't done it yet. We've been moving that way very slowly. Everybody's taking little steps. I actually have about 10 contractors we've coached that are fully 100% virtual already. They were bragging about it every time I posted. They would go, "Oh, we've been doing this for a while. It's great. We sell this many jobs a month, and it hadn't changed a thing." But it's not whether we can; it's how effective will we be. And so you, like us, we had to pivot with what we were doing. Like, we weren't planning on putting this program out until January of 2021. We're going to really work, kind of slowly on it and kind of get it all done, pick at it until we're finished. And we had it all planned out. Obviously, things changed. We had to pivot dramatically to take on helping these guys get through this, through that program. How have you had to pivot? Like, all the messaging just changed, like literally overnight. Like, okay, the messaging changed. What is that causing your business, and how are you handling that?
The most important thing is a lot of people, like we talked about earlier, you have a whole range of people, just like you see among everyone who's on this call, and their friends, their family, and understanding that we have a job to do, and the most important job that we have to do. Yes, we want people to be safe. Yes, we want people to take reasonable precautions. Yes, we want people to stay in their homes if they can, but we have to remind people that it will end. We have to be positive, and we have to be responsible with that positivity. And taking that time away for us while everyone's trying to figure out what their internal operations allowed us to take a step back before all the quarantines and orders happened. We approached our clients and said, this is the correct messaging, or this is what you need to do. You need to step back, and here's why, and then here's until when. And that's really important because 73% of people, there was a media post article said, are being judged on how you're managing your brand, what type of messaging you're having out there. And you can't just be very, I hate using it, but sappy, oh, we're so sorry and whatever, because you're going to placate into that fear. And you can't be like, hey, there's no problem. You have to be a healthy medium. Yes, there is an issue. These are steps we've taken, And this is why we still need to keep the lights on in all the businesses. You know, we still need to, as we talked earlier, we still need to go through that drive-through. We still need to pick up, you know, restaurant business. We still need to interact to support the economy, because those people that are working at the restaurants, that are working in the stores I shouldn't really say, because they're gaining employees right now. So as some are losing, some are gaining. But the biggest thing to do is we keep the economy moving at least at a healthy pace. It's not going to move at the pace it was before until this resolves itself. But we need to support that, because those are your future customers. Those are the people that you're going to try to sell a roof to. And if we help keep the lights on in a positive way with responsibility, we can continue to do business. We can grow our business, and people will remember, just like after a major disaster, how we handled it, how we spoke to people, the precautions we took, and our positivity. And I think it's extremely important, because your reputation is so critical during this time, no matter where your business is located.
Yeah, again, it's been kind of humbling, and just, I was a little bit shocked, to be honest with you. We've had a ton of emails. I mean, a ton of emails, Facebook messages, text messages of, hey, way to step up and take the bull by the horns on this. Keep being positive, keep doing what you're doing. And it's from people involved in our program and people outside of our program, just seeing the stuff that we're putting out there. Like, I always look at everything as it's just a puzzle, right? I got this new puzzle, and somebody this time dumped out a 4,000 piece, tiny little piece puzzle on me and said, okay, figure that out, Jim. So you've been figuring all the others, try this one on for size. And I don't get intimidated by it, and I don't have fear of it or any of that kind of stuff. I just look at, okay, so what are the steps we need to take, and start putting those puzzle pieces together. And if you just determine and you're persistent, those puzzle pieces, you know, at some point will get put back together. And I think that we're doing a fair job of helping people get through this. From the response has been really good. And with really, because of people like you coming in and saying, hey, I'll help. We've had quite a few marketing people that I actually trust to come in and do some of that stuff, and some technology people and some proposal people, and just a variety of different folks, that CRM companies that have come in to help be experts with all this and put it together. And it's that people are going to remember how Contractor Coach Pro handled this. People are going to remember how Kill the Competition with Jessica handled this. They're going to remember how your client, Call Us Roofing, handled this. And it's interesting. You look at the biggest companies in the world at this point in time: Apple, Microsoft, CNN, you name it, Walmart, all were created in a recession. That's amazing to me. Uber was created in a recession. Like, it says there's opportunity there if we jump on it, and we just got to have a really good plan for it. So I'm going to be honest about myself a little bit here. I've not always been a fan of marketing folk all that much, and I'm not either. I dismiss many of them, and did for a long time. I've maybe changed my tune a little bit, but I want to get your take on this. There's this difference between brand building and lead generation, right? Like, you see a lot of people like, you got to build your brand, and you better give me a lead. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not going to spend all this money without having an opportunity. That's what I'm looking for. And so I used to completely dismiss anybody that said anything about brand. As a matter of fact, I hate that word. And I think you mentioned before, you don't like that word either.
Brand is a 4-letter word.
Yeah, brand's a 4-letter word. And I don't know which letter we got to get rid of, but one of them we got to get rid of. This idea of brand building, I think you really need to use the word reputation instead.
100%.
And that reputation is what you're really building. But I still want the lead generation. Like, I need that lead generation. So how is your, like, seriously, I wouldn't even work with somebody unless they could deliver leads like right now. And none of this like, hey, it'll start working in 3 months or 5 months or 6 months or anything like that. That's like, okay, 3 months from now, I'm going to find out that you cannot do this, and I just spent a bunch of money. So where do you stand on that stuff?
I am 100% in your camp. I don't know any business, and I don't feel it is reasonable in any way, shape, or form to ask a business to spend money on any sort of marketing and have to wait 3 months to see a result. I think that is absurd. There is so many great formats out there. I also think there's a lot of things you shouldn't spend money on every month too. But I don't know who I'm not allowed to say right now. But
Hey man, we're transparent around here, and I would love to get your feelings on that. I mean, don't disparage any of my buddies or anything, but
gloves off. If you are paying every month for SEO, for example, in very rare circumstances, does it warrant a monthly payment? Otherwise, it is one and it is done. I know. I'm pretty sure my house is going to burn down, so don't tell anyone where I live. But that's the thing I tell people, and it's something that people always say, well, can we put you on retainer for SEO? And I say, no, you can't. I'm going to show you what needs to be fixed. We're going to address it, and it's going to be done. And when people say, well, what about X, Y, or Z? I'll say, let me show you. Here is my citation directly from Google, from their own thing that says google.com or think with Google, and I will cite you every reason why you should not pay for it and what it means to actually optimize. So those are some of the things. And also, I'm not going to tell people, even if you are the same two different roofing companies, same city, it does not matter. You should not have the same marketing plan. You have, whether you like it or not, you have different customers. And therefore, you should not be marketing the exact same way. It does not matter if Joe Schmo roofing over here and Bob Joe roofing over here, what's happening with them. What matters is what you are doing. Are you reaching the people that you need to reach? Because a lot of times you'll see people, and I love Google. I have a lot of certifications from Google. I'm a Google partner, and I'm just going to be honest. Google will have their sponsored or their, I forgot what it's called.
Don't say anything that's going to get your certification taken away.
No, I can say this. They'll have local services ads. So you have all these ones across the top, okay? And it's a little checkbox. And then below that, you have Google ads. And then you have the map. And even in the map, there's now ads that you can place through Google ads. And then finally get down to organic. So if you think someone's going to surf all the way down and you're paying, and I've heard some ungodly amounts of money that people pay every month for SEO, you're out of your tree. And if you're sitting there trying to be focusing all your money on that first one, leads local services, 2 Google ads, 3 Google ads through the maps, that's a lot of competition. And if you're a small roofing contractor, you cannot afford that. You need to find a way where you're not sitting there trying to be one jelly bean in the jar of jelly beans and hoping that the customer can find you. It is really important.
That's super fantastic. So if I was going to go the Google route, because I mean, that's the way people search, right? They search like roofer in Greeley, Colorado. And boom, we get the results. There's 3 or 4 ads at the top, and then they Google ads. And then like you said, in the map, you're now seeing, like, the first time I saw an ad in the map, I was like, oh, what are you doing? Please stop. Is that a calculated thing, do you think, by Google, that really that whole first page is going to be an ad and you won't see organic until the next page at some point?
I think that they are definitely heading in that direction. And it's also funny too, if you get an email or you get a call from a salesperson in marketing, they're like, do you know you're not number 1 of this really ridiculously long keyword? Don't have a panic attack. It's probably not even a keyword that people search, because what they do is they bank on your fear. So whenever I get those from clients, they'll say, oh my gosh, I'm not number 1 of flat roofer Denver. And I'll say, okay, let's look on Google, because all this information is public, like I've mentioned. How many people search flat roofer Denver? Less than 10 a month. So who cares if you're not number 1 of flat roofer Denver? Let's be number 1 of where all the people are at. And then find, even within those keywords, there's times just changing a simple thing within that keyword strategy, instead of having the local services, then the Google ads, then the map with the ads, there might just be 1 of those things, maybe 2, and you might have less ads, less competition. So again, this is trying to find, how can I be, because you should be on Google ads in most cases, but it doesn't mean all of your budget should be there. And sometimes it's looking at something completely out of the box. So for example, landscaping is a very high dollar item, and it's also very competitive, like roofing. And so I talked to one of our contractors and I said, are you familiar with Waze? And they said, well, what's Waze? And we talked about, it's a navigation app. It's number 2 in the iPhone. I don't have an iPhone. I don't have an Apple, whatever your Apple store is. And on mine, because I have an Android, it's number 3. It's very well used. Sorry, I don't have Apple.
But we're both Android people. This is unusual. Almost everybody I talk to is like Apple. The App Store is what it's called.
Okay, the App Store. Well, the cool people store. I'm not the cool person. That's okay. So I said, why don't we do these takeover ads? And everyone's first response is, well, that's just for driving somewhere. And I said, yes, they're driving somewhere, but it's very similar to a billboard. The only difference between them and a billboard, which I know there's probably people that buy billboards on here, is I'm not asking a driver to look away from the road for 7 to 10 seconds. Hope to God I can memorize all the information you put on there and try not to drive off the road if I decide to take action now to dial you or to call you. So now I'm looking at my phone, I'm driving, safely driving and looking at your phone, looking at for navigation. And you can do call now or save offer. And this landscaper was using it for an offer of $1,000 off a landscaping of $10,000 more. So he thought, let's make it so bare minimum. He got 52 calls in the first month, and I think he spent maybe $1,000. Wow. You're not going to get that on Google Ads, but it was an area where he had the local services, then he had the Google Ads, then he had the map and the ads. So yes, he still had a presence on Google, but he got more calls from something that he could literally click to call right there than you could from doing Google Ads. So it's really important about being open-minded. Again, finding a partner, and we talked about earlier, find a partner that you're comfortable with and a partner that you're willing, that you feel confident in listening to if they come up with a creative idea, and be willing to try it. And I'm not saying, again, don't wait 3 months. If it's not working within 2 weeks, stop it, especially if it's digital. I don't care what anyone tells you. There's literally a button on Google Ads and you can say pause the ad if it is not working. It is okay to say, this is not working. Let's find what is working. And being realistic with people. You're going to have the first month with any client, you're going to have some fluctuation. You're trying to figure out, okay, how many calls is this driving? What's the length of these calls? Be willing to take 2 weeks. That's all I ask people. Give me 2 weeks. Let's work on it. Another 2 weeks, it's going to get better, and it should continue to get better. And eventually, with any good marketing person, you're going to plateau. You're going to max out what you can do with that dollar. And then you have to say, okay, do I want to stay here? Because some people may not have the capacity. You may not have the ability, depending on the market you're in, depending on the season, to get more crews on. If it's storm season or major storms happen, it's going to be difficult. Yes, the market's going to be flooded, but people are going to grab those contractors up. So all of a sudden, you can't go from here to here unless you know that you have the ability to hire the labor to handle it for you. So be reasonable in your expectations about when you should jump, because it doesn't make sense if I plateau here with my marketing and my leads and my calls and they're good, and I cannot get the labor to spend more money to get more leads that you cannot handle, because it doesn't matter if you can get an estimator there if you cannot do the work, because then you create a bad reputation.
I can always get the labor. I promise you. You can give me a lead, I'll get the labor, and I'll get the salespeople. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
It's big believer in that aspect of things. So I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I got so many, I got so many questions, and like would it be okay to bring you back at some point? We're not going to end right now, but I just want to ask that now so I don't forget later.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to do maybe one more here in a couple months or something, or maybe when we're through all this coronavirus stuff and deal with that. So when it comes to advertising, I'm still a neophyte. I don't really know all that much, but one thing I do know, or at least I think I know, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not, is if you're gonna market wherever it is that you're gonna market, do you start with the end in mind? Do you start with like, what do I want that person to do, and then build backwards from that? Or do you say, hey, we're going to do this and we hope they do that?
I think just if you're a salesperson, I feel like most people on here either have some sort of sales experience. You always start with, what do I want to make this year? I want to be a $5 million company. I want to be a $10 million company. I want to be whatever it is, 25 million. Well, then you have to work backwards from that, because if you start at the beginning with no end goal in mind, you're just burning dollars.
Yeah. So, and I get that for setting my company up. Like we all talk about that, right? Sales guys with their goals and companies with their goals, but is marketing like your ad that this campaign that you're going to run, or this funnel you're going to create? Is it with this idea, I want them to click to call, or to fill out a form, or download this? Like, do you start with the end thing, like the thing I want them to do, and work your way back on that? Or is it, hey, we just have this one big message that we're sending out and I hope they click this thing?
Going back to the omni-channel marketing, you have a right message for the right media at the right place at the right time. And so you start with, yes, I want to be the end goal. And you have to understand how your customer interacts with all the different times that they interact with you, whether they see an ad, they see your truck, they see someone knocking on the door. But the end goal has to be extremely important, and everything focuses and goes off of what that end goal is. So if I, let's say, want to make sure that people in the market know, yes, I'm in this one neighborhood, I'm working this one neighborhood, but I have the intentions of going to this next one in maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 weeks. You got to make sure that they already are aware of, going back to reputation. That's really what it comes down to, building that reputation in a broad sense. But every time you build your reputation, you should still have a call to action on there and telling them what to do with it. Because there's no point, again, letting people know even your reputation if you're not asking them to do something. At minimum, visit your website, give you a call. It should be the most minimum thing you add on there.
Can I get an amen? Like, seriously, like, I don't know how many ads, how many marketing pieces I see that don't have a call to action. It's just like, this is who I am. Here's my picture. Here's my company. And there's no like call now. There's no download this. There's no apply or set an inspection or an appointment. There's no call to action. Like, whatever you spend on that, you just set it on fire. It's like, just fire, and that's all there is to it. It's so frustrating to watch it. And so I understand these concepts. I actually spent an exorbitant amount of money on getting a marketing coach for myself, and getting a better handle on this digital world and how to, because I don't like it, to be honest with you. I do. And I hate social media. I hate all of that. And I don't like to be on TV. I don't like to, I don't even like to hear my own voice. It's like, those things seem very ego driven to me. I'm somewhat narcissistic, and it's just, I'm not wired. I used to be. I'm not wired that way anymore. I'm very cognizant of it. And what I did is I had to come to grips with being who I am. Like, that part, like, as long as I can be genuine and authentic, then I'm comfortable with it. Then it's okay. I can go shoot a video or write a piece of copy, or like, we put an ad out, and I wasn't real happy with it. Like, it was, and it wasn't me. It was my video, but the call to action was wrong, and the piece that was taken out wasn't the right piece for what the message was saying. I'm like, it's so frustrating. I'm going, all right, so now I got to get involved again and go do that thing. And nothing against anybody. It's just they're all still learning. We're not great at it. So you said the words. There was the 3 words I was hoping you were going to say. And what do you think of call to action? And so that was one of my questions I'm going to ask you. Now we know the answer. Like, it should be on everything, right?
Everything.
All right.
Even a truck can have a call to action.
What's your favorite call to action?
It depends on what action you want them to take.
Good political answer.
Well, no, I mean,
I want the answer. I want you at my house. That's the answer I want. I want you at my house. And so what's the best
but
call?
Even again, going back to, you have different customers. I have some roofing contractors that are really great with calls. They are really good with people on the phone. One of the girls, if I had like a company where I was having people call me all day and they weren't trying to sell me like the logo, to sponsor the logo on a sweat sock, I would hire her. And but there's also different types of businesses where they don't want to call. They're really good with online. So you have to understand who your customer is, because if you're asking people to download an ad or to book it online, and they're the type of people that want to call, then your call to action's wrong. So you have to think about who the end user is and what their comfort level is. And that's really important.
Oh, you nail on the head. Well done. I am thoroughly impressed. I really am. It's your stuff for sure. Why does somebody react to an ad?
Well, they're going to react good or bad only if you make an impression on them.
That word. Can you explain what an impression is? Like, I talk about it with our contractor clients, and it's like this foreign concept. Every single time I put together KPIs, the very first thing is impressions. And the very first question is, what's an impression? So can we get it from the marketing expert, what an impression is?
Okay. So an impression is someone physically seeing, hearing, or in a video case, seeing and hearing at the same time your message. And an impression is not necessarily unique to a person. So for example, I might see the same ad if someone didn't place my media correctly 5 times in one day. Okay, that does not mean that 5 different people saw it. It means it was seen 5 times. You can set it to the point where there's 5 different people who saw it one time, and it's still 5 impressions. So it's really important that people understand the difference between impressions and unique people that are exposed to them. And also understanding too, at some point, they're going to be sick of you. Cap it off. Great example if you've ever used Hulu, and early stages in Hulu, even though it was cheap to advertise, a lot of local businesses didn't do it because one of the ones you probably would have seen would have been Geico. Every single ad break had Geico. So after 2 hours of seeing Geico, you're like, I'm Netflixing out. I'm something. Show me anything, but I don't even care what it is. You know?
I remember that. We were an early adopter of Hulu, and you're right. It was. I'm like, all right.
Maybe not Geico. It was a car insurance company, and that tells you also the impression it made. It wasn't a good one, and I don't even remember the brand. So it's important in an impression not only to understand what it is, the visual side of it, but also understanding what impact an impression has. Just like impression can also refer to reputation. So when you're talking to your marketing person, make sure you understand how many people will see it, how many times, how often they will see it. Because even if you have the best message, it's the greatest ad in the world, whether it's in a print magazine, whether it's a flyer, whether it's you knock on the door, there's a point where people will A, act on it, or B, be sick of it. And it's really important that you understand that every type of interaction has a different threshold of patience with people too.
Do you have a favorite media for particular, like this type of contractor, that kind of media, or is it just we're casting a wide net through a variety of things? Is it like, we'll use a roofing contractor because, all honesty, that's most of our clients, about 70%. We have a bunch of others as well, but that's most of our clients. Like, is there a specific one, like for roofers, that go, man, this is the cat's meow for you?
Okay. These are all very ifs. If you can create a good message, and I mean a good quality message, it does not have to cost you $1 million to do it. I mean, don't show video of you rolling up in a truck. Nobody cares what your truck looks like. No one cares how many trucks you have. Make it something that is valuable to the person. TV is amazing. Again, if you target them correctly, because there's a million programs, there's hundreds of seconds of airtime out there, but it does not matter if you have the wrong message and the wrong audience. It is so critical to understand that audience and who's on there, because every TV rep and a lot of agencies, I love what I do, but there's a lot of, just like in any industry, there's a lot of bad information out there. And at the end of the day, their job is to sell you something. So it's really important that you ask, and it's unfortunate that you have to ask, where are you getting this information from? Because what TV can do, even Google spends about 60 to 65% of their weekly ad budget on TV. They won't tell you that, but that's what they do. There is a media firm.
I've seen them a couple of times.
I can prove it. I can show it. It's Kantar. They track every dollar that's spent throughout TV, social media, billboards, radio, and all. I mean, you can get as finite down to what ad was ran, what the message within the ad is, down to the second in every market. They are extremely good at that information. But again, Google spends 60 to 65% of that. The group is called FANG: Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. The majority of their budget, companies you will never walk in the door, Expedia, Lowe's, they all spend the majority of their budget on TV because they know how much impact, if they have the right place and if they have the right message, it can make on the business, because all of that drives online action. They're going to go to your website. They're going to search more about you. They're going to ask their friends online. There's a whole, again, talking about the omni-channel process, it makes a huge flood of digital impact. You could actually go, if it's placed right, you can actually go to your analytics and look at it. If you use specific types of TV advertising, like Hulu, for example, it's called OTT. You can actually track, if I saw an ad right now, I'm watching it on Sling TV, it'll see on my device, because it's the same IP, trying to slow down because I know this is weird, and ABC, DFG.
You're actually getting right to where I want to talk about.
Okay.
So this is good.
So they'll see the ad there. I'll see the ad there. I'll go to Contractor Coach Pro. My husband, Jason, might go to it a couple days later. But that IP attribution reporting, when it's done processing, it'll say, okay, one household, because Jason and I are not separate clients or separate potential customers. We're really one. We're within the same household. It'll say when to the website and then what happened. Where did I go once I got there? And when you look at that, you treat it just the way you would an ad campaign on Google. You'd say, okay, how many clicks did I get? What actions did they take? Only difference is it didn't cost. Typically, they don't go to Google. Now they know your name. They know your website. They'll go to, abc.com, whatever it is that you're sending them to. And then typically they're going to take action because if you've made the right message, right placement, right call to action, they're going to take the action that you ask them to do. And it does really well. And it's competitive to actually Google Ads.
Okay. So this is the question I was hoping, and I know we're short on time. Excuse my cough there. And I do have a couple more questions. So marketing for me is like this thing that's moving too fast for me to keep up with. It's just so much to it. And there's so many different channels now than it used to be. Yellow pages, TV, radio, billboards. Like that was pretty much the tried and true, maybe some direct mail, right? Like there we go. Then they added in email. And so I'd love to get your opinion on email. Like, is that still a thing? And do you do it? And because one of the things I learned about email that I didn't know before, I used to always worry about spamming people, right? Like giving them too much email. So I'd really reel it back in. But you have to send it to them often, because what we're doing is we're on our phones, and you guys that are watching the video see me with my phone. I open up my email and I do what I think most people do. I open the email up and I do the click thing to highlight that particular email. And then I hit the delete button. And I just delete them all the ones that are like extraneous. I don't even look at them. It's like, oh yeah, I see those guys every day. Boom. And I delete them, right? Because I'm busy. I'm in the middle of the day. I'm working. It's hot and heavy. And then that night, I was sitting in bed. And I got the phone in front of me, and I'm looking at my email, and oh yeah, I kind of wanted to look at that thing that I just deleted 3 times earlier today, and I got it again, but I had the time for it. Is that something that? How do you feel about that? Like, is there too much type stuff that you can do along those lines?
Again, I don't know who's all listening, and I don't know who all your partners are. I'm just going to be really honest, like I was with SEO. When you go to your mailbox and it's full of junk, I can't even tell you a single time that I got an email from an advertiser that I deleted. And not that my behavior is everybody's, but I think when we delete it, it would be hard fetched for me to say most people go back and search their trash for an email. And we get so much. It's just like opening up the mailbox, where I'm looking for one thing maybe 3 times a month from my mailbox, and that's it. And every day I walk right to my recycling can and I drop it all in. There's probably like 3 credit card offers, 2 home refinance offers. There's always stuff like
internet.
that.
Don't forget that internet. You're going to get an offer on that too.
Yes. So I've got all these offers, and it's the same thing. And people are so busy. So we have to really consider, who is my customer? Are they busy? If you do really well with older people in older communities, they're probably going to be more likely to read your email. They're sitting around, they're playing words with friends. That's fine. But you have to consider, are they a family? Do they have kids? Especially right now. If they've got kids and their kids are at home, they are not reading your email.
Nope.
It's just going like, I don't have time for this today. And it doesn't matter if it's magical rainbows and you're giving away whatever and you have video. It's a lot of stuff. And again, you have so many, and I'm going to be totally honest here. I have 3 emails. I have a personal email. I have 1 email that I get so much email from one of my clients and all of the people trying to sell them stuff that I just kept this old email just for them. And then I have my main work email. My main work email, okay, and has probably, I don't even know how many unread emails, but they're not my client ones. Because my client ones, I can set a setting, and I think most people do, to see it. If I go to my Gmail, my personal one, it already moves most of your emails into that promotions folder. I will probably never see it if it's a Gmail email. And you may not know it's a Gmail email, because if they use Google Apps for Business, and let's say you're trying to get commercial work, it will do the same thing. It will start siphoning it through, and it will start learning the behavior based on how people interact with your email. So again, you got so many hours in the day, you have so many dollars in the bank, there's better ways to communicate with people. Even text is better. And there's ways you can text with people. There's ways you can serve ads with people that don't require opt-ins, but are still respectful and is not going to be cluttered.
Wow. A marketing person said respectful. That's awesome. It's pretty rare. All right. So I'm going to ask you two more questions. If you were a home services contractor right now, and you were thinking about spending some money in marketing, what would be the top three things you'd do right now with your marketing? Considering that you have, an average budget, maybe it's $3,000 a month.
Okay. If I have $3,000 a month, I'm going to do research first. That's the most important thing you can do. How many people are looking for what I do, and how many people know who I am? You can find that for free anytime. If you actually log in and create, even though if you never create an account on Google Ads, there's a tool in there that's free. It's called the search volume tool, or they call it keyword planner tool now. It's the new name for it. And you can look at historical metrics. And that historical metrics will tell you can say, I want to look at how many people are within a geographic range. You can't look by zip code in that tool. It's city, county, state. And you can say, if I have $3,000, I'm not going to be targeting a city. I'm probably not going to be targeting, I'll be targeting a city, not a metro or a state. I'm going to be very specific because I got this many dollars. If I'm in a medium or smaller market, I will probably see if I can find a way where I can be in that larger pool. If I can't, then I'm going to look at if people don't know who I am and my keywords are very competitive. They're going to be extremely expensive, and being really honest and really realistic that they're not going to just click on that once and call you. There is a process. And so you shouldn't expect if someone says, well, the average, cost per click for this one thing is $25. You might have to spend $300, $500 before they actually call you if they don't know who you are. And if they don't know who you are, then you need to find a way where you can make them aware of who you are. That could be through social media, again, depending on your demographic and the people you're trying to reach. That could be on Waze. That could be on LinkedIn. Making sure that you have that display awareness first and building that reputation with a call to action. If they know who you are, then you can bid on those other keywords. You can probably even bid on your own name and get a lot more calls that way. So we have a contractor who literally has a budget specifically set for not only the name of their company, I almost said the B word, the name of their company, but also the name of the owner, because the owner has really good market recognition I'm in Tampa, in the Tampa Bay area. So he has a specific set for those things. And for the people in the areas, the cities where they don't know him, where it costs too much, and there's the three Google lead services or local services and Google ads and the map, then we use Waze for that one, or we use Facebook. So it's really important to understand, I guess that's more than three, that's a really complicated process, but it's not a 1, 2, 3. Research, understand, and once you understand, how people know about you, what they know about you, and what they're searching for, then you can create a digital marketing plan within $3,000 and be very successful at doing it.
Okay. So if somebody was as brilliant as you about it, what would you expect on the number of leads I know markets vary, but just in a broad range on $3,000?
If they know, if your company has a good reputation, not everyone says my company has a great reputation. I mean, if you can prove that people know who you are, you could probably get I would say maybe 200 leads from that. Wow. If you're not well known and you don't place it right, you're probably going to be somewhere in the 50 range.
Still good.
Yeah, it's still great.
If you're saying that's 50 leads that I get to go see, and I know my closing percentages are, 30% on the low side. Ours were higher than that, but let's just say that's the average guy out there. That means you're going to talk to 20 people and actually you're going to get 20 customers. You can do the math really fast on is that worth it or not?
Yes. And again, the quality of that too is, if it's a few hundred, is that repairs or is that just re-roof? You need to also understand the cost difference between those. So for example, there's a contractor in Texas and they're in the Dallas what they call triplex. Yep. And, he really wanted to get this one specific type of roofing. And we're like, roof repair is the most bid upon thing. Yes, it has a high profit margin, but it's also a lower ticket item. But roof replacement in the specific zip code you're looking at had a lower cost per click. He didn't have the market recognition. So again, it was an opportunity. So you have to be willing to adjust and understand. In some markets, it may be cheaper for you, and that number of leads may be repairs. So again, there's a whole system to, I guess, the process. And again, it all depends. How well are you known? How willing you are to try something, new, possibly, because you don't want to be that one jelly bean in the jar.
Awesome. You have been amazing today, Jessica. I mean, fountain of information. I think the listeners are going to go, okay, now I got all these things to go look at. They're going to be a little bit, how would they get in touch with you?
They can go to our website, and we practice what we preach. So one of the things that I preach is Podium, and that actually direct messages to me. They can email me, and those are probably the two best ways to get a hold of me, because I do, like you, get a lot of calls from people trying to say, would you like to sponsor the logo on our sweat socks? Would you like to sponsor this one race that no one's ever heard of? We believe everyone and their mother will be there.
They're not?
No, they're not. I have a lot of names in the contracting industry, so people will know me as, I can't say them probably on this program, but you can always trust that I'll give you an honest answer. And if you, what we can do after this call is we can create some things like how to get to the keyword planner, maybe make a simple guide or something like that, because I think that would be really eye-opening, as people are trying to figure out, how do I get my word out there, especially if the way that you've done it is not working anymore, or it has to change because of the market conditions.
So we'll get your web. It's killmycompetition.com, right?
Kill your competition.
Kill your. So sorry about that.
Today. It's not even .com. It's .today. It's kill your competition. We want to make it as long and as complicated as possible, and I feel like we nailed it. So
you sound like mine. ContractorCoachPRO.com. I have to write that every time I do an email.
So killyourcompetition.today, not .com. If you go to .com, some realtor in Kansas, I think, owns that, and she's never done anything with it and won't give it to us.
Nice. All right. So last question. This is a question I always finish with, and I always know you guys never listen to my podcast, so you don't know what this question is. We all know that our time on this planet is limited, and we're gonna go from it someday. And so on that day, how do you want to be remembered?
I thought you were going to ask how to spend it. I was like, with my family.
No, you have gone. Everybody's going past the casket or your urn or however it is that you're going to be displayed for everybody to go past. What do you want them to? How do you want to be remembered?
I hope the way I am now, that I'm not perfect and I have a lot of work to do, but that I genuinely care and try to do my best. I don't always deliver things very PC. I'm pretty, here's where it is. I'm missing that filter. God didn't give me one. And, but that even though I say things, that I do care and that I did my best, and that I focused on the things that mattered most in my life.
Last I checked, God didn't have a filter. He was pretty straightforward with a lot of things, so it's okay. I think he's okay with it. Jessica, you've been wonderful and really appreciate it. I learned a lot today, and I'm going to talk with you whenever we get off today for just a few minutes. And I think you will be remembered that way. You seem very genuine, authentic, and service-oriented. And that always comes through whenever we interview somebody. And it really why I did reach out to you. That's who I like to interview, is people that do it right. So thanks.
Thanks, everybody.